Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Reads Podcast, the show where I talk about books and only books and everything book related. Today, I am joined by Ms. Reesa Wood. Reesa is the author and writer of the book Forged in Thunder and Fire. She is also a romance and fantasy author, and it's an adult fantasy romance where she is a brilliant scientist and he is a brooding, deadly commander. If you love enemies to lovers, forced proximity, spice, and love these kind of romance novels, this book is for you. So today she's here. She's going to share a little bit more about the process of writing her book, kind of what inspired her, the publishing process, and just what the overall experience has been for her so far. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to Risa for coming on to the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show and welcome to Southern Reads.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So tell me how you got interested in writing and what kind of inspired you to become an author.
So, I actually call my interest in writing and books my enemies to lovers uh, experience because as a kid, I actually very much disliked reading and writing. It was my worst subject in school, and it was something I never thought I would enjoy doing. So, it was always a struggle to get for my parents and my teachers to get me to read. And I was constantly having extra help, right? And before and after school. And it wasn't until I got into junior high that I actually started doing well in English because of all the extra help. And then I discovered fantasy books. And weirdly enough, I did not like any romance whatsoever. And I only started liking romance books when I met my now husband about 10 years ago and fell in love head over heels. And then I was like, oh, I understand the appeal now. So it's kind of, I did like a complete 360 on on books and romance and writing. And it was about high schoolish that I started writing almost as like a therapy type thing, like an outlet.
I think that's amazing to kind of look at and see that, writing affects us in multiple different ways. Um, Share with me kind of the writing process that you usually do when you're writing books, and where do you get a lot of your inspirations from?
Yeah, I very much like to take uh issues that I have, problems that I struggle with, and make them into fantasy elements. And I like to do that to interact with my problems, to just kind of work with what I'm dealing with in a safer way, I guess. And so I just kind of create these stories with things that have happened that I've experienced, and I give it a monster or I give it a character in a book, and I interact with it.
So for Forged in Thunder and Fire, share with me a little bit about kind of the inspiration behind the title and how did you go about writing this book?
Yeah. So, Forged in Thunder and Fire, the main female character is a scientist. She's a dwarf princess in her mountain, safely in her mountain. Um, I grew up in a very safe home environment, very much loved. I'm a STEM major myself, electrical engineer, and so I've always enjoyed science. And to me, Darna, she's the main character. Her mountain home kind of represented my family safety, my childhood, in that I was very protected, very sheltered, and the humans that invade her home to me kind of represented the march of time, in that at some point I had to grow up and I had to face the world and it was going to come for me whether I wanted it to or not. And then Darna has to go through a lot of growing up herself. She has to figure out who she is, what her boundaries are, what she wants out of life. And a lot of the lessons she learned are lessons I learned. And the way that she deals with failure and the way that she thinks about her problems and how to solve them are very much how I went about solving my own problems in adulthood, especially when I went off to college. And so that very much inspired kind of the bulk of the story. It was very therapeutic to write.
Now, being in the romance genre, usually what people look for is, there's all kinds of books that have genres, but I feel like in particular with romance, there are so many sub genres within romance, and kind of what I had mentioned in that earlier um intro was, she does kind of the roles in there, enemies to lovers, forced proximity. I did actually a video kind of, or like a podcast episode early on when I talked about like what all that meant, what all those terms mean. Did you, when you started writing this, were you aware of a lot of the terms that a lot of people and users that are on these social media apps use when they're talking about romance books?
I did not. I did not have much of a social media presence when I was writing the book. And at the point of me deciding to even publish it, I sat back, looked at my book, and went, "What the heck did I write? How how do I market this? What's involved?" And it took I had to ask my beta readers, like friends and family, what what did I write?
Yeah, romance, it's I've read a few romance and I haven't read any of the so far the books I've selected. Now I've got one that's called my lit or my I need to read books that's considered one of the spiciest ones out there. So we'll see about that. But I haven't really experienced a lot of these themes and terminologies in books. Yeah, I've kind of been briefly introduced to them, but they're not like the R-rated spice that you would see like 50 Shades of Grey. I've not really had that level of spice on in books yet. Um, you had mentioned about beta readers, and this is something that I think a lot of authors really do look out to is the kind of beta reads and looking for advanced reader copies and all this. So when you were looking at wanting to have people read this book ahead of time, how did you go about that process of picking who you felt like would be the best fit for to be a beta reader?
Yeah, so before beta readers, I had my this book sent off to an editor, um, a professional editor, and I chose somebody who had lots of good experience in the genre, because I knew it was fantasy, I knew it was romance. And she really helped put things together, smooth things out. And then after all those edits, all my beta readers were friends and family. I know quite a few people who really enjoy romance, really enjoy fantasy, uh, like spicy books. It was very nerve-wracking to hand over my book to friends and family. Um, Partly because writing this book did feel very personal, like almost like I was handing over a diary just disguised as fantasy. But I also was looking for, hey, is this story interesting in any sort of way? And they had lots of ideas for me. Went through many, many more rounds of edits. Um, And after that, it was proofreaders that I sent it off to. I think alpha and proofreaders.
So when you decided to finally launch the book, did you want to work with a traditional publisher, or did you want to be these self-published authors that have a little bit more control and a little bit more freedom when it comes to launching it? They have more say about how they do it instead of having to follow a guideline.
I had initially wanted to traditionally publish, and I have queried many, many, many literary agents, both for Forged in Thunder and Fire and some previous books that I had written. I ended up having Forged in Thunder and Fire my debut novel just because it's a standalone, not part of the series, no cliffhangers. Everything was tied up nicely. It was under 100,000 words. So I felt like that was the good debut book to have. But I'd wanted to do traditional publish, just for help with everything, with marketing, with all the things that go into publishing, because oh boy, is publishing a lot.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So when you went through about launching and wanted to kind of have this book be put on the market and everything, how did you, what was that experience like for you? Would you say it was kind of a stressful one? Was it something was there anything that kind of caught you off guard about the whole publishing process?
There's not a whole lot that caught me off guard, because I had thought about it for like I was kicking around the idea for a couple of years, and I was doing all sorts of research and what to expect, what will it cost, timelines, and kind of the reason that I decided to go the self-publishing route was because for this book, Forged in Thunder and Fire, I'd already hired my own editor, which was like the, the half of the cost of self-publishing right there. Um, and I just kind of wanted to get things done. I was like, let's get the ball rolling. Let's do something. Um, I definitely learned a lot. Um, I think what surprised me the most was how much time it takes to self-publish, just because I think it took a month for my initial author's proof to come. I thought it would be, I don't know, a week at most that I'd have to wait for printing and sending it to me. I was also very surprised by how many mistakes I found in my book after getting the author's proof, after swearing up and down that it was perfect. I think I found some like 30 mistakes reading through the physical copy that I had to go fix.
What's been the overall reception that you've received so far from people that have read the books besides from the beta readers?
Absolutely fantastic. I I had lots of, I think some 80, 70, 80 ARC readers, advanced readers, and I don't think I got under 3 stars. I think most of them were 4 or 5 star reviews. Um, and so far, everybody that has read my book and and gotten back to me on what they thought it was great.
Now, since publishing this book, have you been inspired to become like a full on author, or was this kind of just an experience to see what it was like? Do you plan on coming out with any more books in the future?
That was something that I had been pondering a lot the last couple of months, actually. I went through the whole process, got the book out, and then I kind of sat back and took a break from social media, from writing, all the things, just because it was very consuming for a couple of months. And I thought, would I want to do this again? would I want to completely create these stories, go through all the marketing, all of the hiring, because I am not a digital artist in any way, shape, or form. So I need to hire people for book covers, hire another editor for my next book. And I want to I want to do it all again. I have lots and lots of ideas, and honestly, it's not so much the publishing process that I've really enjoyed. It's connecting with other indie authors. And the support that I've found on Instagram and social media has been absolutely incredible. I've met so many wonderful people, and I, as somebody who's an introvert, like I dreaded going on social media and promoting my book, and I'm doing things now that I never thought I would. Never thought I'd be a part of a podcast, never thought that I'd regularly be making videos and sharing it with people. And so I'm doing things that I never thought possible, and I want to keep seeing where this will go.
Who were some of your biggest inspirations and authors that you looked up to and that have really helped inspired you on your writing journey so far?
The Lord of the Rings has been one of my biggest inspirations. That was one of the stories where I had realized that you could take real life issues and disguise it as fantasy. And I love the books, I love the movies. My parents read me The Hobbit when I was a kid, but another series, one of the first series that I ever fell in love with was the Ranger's Apprentice series by John Flanagan. And I have most of his books, most of the Ranger's Apprentice series still. And I especially loved the adventure and the relationships with the characters. It was just something I fell hard for.
What's this whole process been like for you personally? How has this kind of exceeded your expectations, or was this something that you kind of imagined would end up happening for you?
I, oh boy, I definitely had big wild dreams of wild success for my debut. But I've also, again, being somebody who is more logical, especially being an engineer. I knew the statistics, I knew the odds of success, I knew what the average number of books I would sell. Um, and so I kind of had these realistic expectations. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I had expected. But at the same time, I dreamed of big wild success.
From the characters in your novel, which one do you think you resonate and kind of relate to the most?
Oh, absolutely the main character. Princess Darna is the one that I relate to the most. She has got grit, and that's something that got me through college. Because I struggled when I went to university. Um, I I'd failed a couple of classes, and it just kind of felt like wading through thick mud, which is what Darna experiences, where she's just kind of have to keep doing what she has to do, even though it's hard. And that's what I did in university. It was hard and I struggled, but we kept attacking it until something worked.
What's been the most challenging part for you so far?
Most challenging part, I think it's consistency with social media. I think the marketing, keeping an online presence, and trying to wade through the thick of hundreds and thousands of authors that are also trying to get their books noticed. It definitely became more of I'm just going to support other people as much as I can, and put my book out there, and we'll see what happens. Because I'm no content creator. That's kind of been one of the hardest things is making videos, making posts, and continuing to talk about it. Because kind of in my mind, uh, this project is done. Fortune, Thunder, and Fire is out there. And then I have to keep reminding myself, oh yeah, I have to still market the book. Like I want to move on to other projects. And so now I have to make time to write more books and to go through the publishing again, while also not forgetting my previous project.
Now, learning what you know now after going through this whole process with one book, if you choose to continue writing books going into the future and wanted to publish more, what changes would you make now that you would not want to repeat or try to do again with the first one?
I would leave myself more time to print out books that are going to ARC readers because I think 2 or 3 weeks late on my physical ARC book delivery to all my ARC readers. Because I didn't realize how much time it would take to print everything and get it sent over. So I'd leave myself some more room for that. I also had initially ordered all my book copies and set up a seller account on Amazon, and shipped out all my own books. And I probably won't do that again. I've since switched over to Kindle printing. Amazon will print my books and ship them out whenever there's an order. So it does that automatically now. But initially for that kind of quality control and to be more involved with selling and providing that, I was shipping them out myself, but it was quite time consuming. It was pretty expensive, and it left me no room to have days off.
Do you have any book ideas, or are you currently working on any books right now that you could possibly give my audience a tease or kind of a preview at so far about what they can expect going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I have started, um, I actually started a series before I'd worked on Fortune, Thunder, and Fire. It's also a romantic fantasy, and I'm planning to have 3 series. I've already written the first book, and I've written most of the second book, and I'm kicking around the idea of publishing that first book. It's one that I've queried to agents before, and then decided not to publish it just because, like I said, it was a series. There was a cliffhanger. And at that point, I had Forged in Thunder and Fire. I've also started an alien sci-fi romance series that I'm really, really excited about. It's gonna be a similar setup to like Ruby Dixon's Ice Planet Barbarians. If anybody's heard of those, they're pretty popular. But a different couple would be the main characters in each book, and I plan on 6 or 7 books for that one. I've also started working on a romance, like a pirate romance between a siren and a pirate captain, and that one I'm pretty excited about too.
Where would you like to see your writing career 10 years from now?
Ooh, in 10 years. I would love to have multiple books published. And it would be great if it got me a bit of an income, like a side income. I would hope that writing is my career. In 10 years, like I would want to be traditionally published. I would want to move off my day job maybe and be an author. But again, I know the odds of that happening are not great. So my more realistic expectation is that my books are more of a side hustle and that the uh, being an author is a secondary income and not my main income.
To anyone listening, if they are a writer themselves and maybe they are having difficulty on trying to get their book published or they are having trouble maybe launching their book, what advice would you do you have for them on how they can go about this process smoothly?
My advice would be keep going, do and write what you love, and do what makes sense for you at the time. Um, I wasn't able to self-publish until I had a bit of money saved, and it was it up until that point, sort of my only path to being published was traditional because I did not have the money up front to fund it. And secondly, I would say treat it as a business because that's what being an author is. That's what selling your books is. You're running a business. And so think about cost and benefit. Think about what like keeping a schedule helps, being consistent. And it's not just a hobby, it's you're representing a product and a brand.
So going, what are you most proud of?
I am proud of myself for seeing it through. There's a lot of things in my life that I've tried to do and failed at miserably. And so I'm very proud of myself for seeing through the process of running this business because that's what it is. And I think just having that book in my hands, I dreamed of wild success, lots of money, lots of fame and fortune. But after doing everything, like just holding that book in my hands, like that's mine. And that's pretty magical.
Well, Reesa, I appreciate you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today to share your story and to share your book, and really just have a really good conversation. I really enjoyed having you on today. For my audience that's interested in the book, where can they go to learn more about you, where to follow you, and where can they go to purchase the book and support you on your writing journey?
Yeah, I am mostly on Instagram, author underscore RM Wood. I'm also on Threads under that same username. And the book is available on Amazon and it is available as an ebook on Kindle.
And I will put all this information in the description box and in the show notes below. So feel free to also check that out and find all that information down there. Feel free to follow the podcast on the socials. You can reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at southern.reads. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And as always, feel free to just check out my website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show as well as the other podcasts that I do. There you'll find all kinds of information about shows I've been on, links to all or the podcasts and socials for all the podcasts are available. So just go to my website, check all that information out. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. Feel free to subscribe or follow so you get notified if when new episodes like this come out in the future. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I will catch you all in the next episode of Southern Reads.